I know exactly what you are thinking. 45 years around plumbing, and this fella has never scrubbed a toilet bowl. That is not a plumber. That is a man with a filthy bathroom and a good story. I understand why it sounds that way, so let me clear it up in the first 30 seconds. I clean toilets, more often than most people do. What I do not do is scrub them. Not once. Not on my knees with a stiff brush. Not leaning on a pumice stone. Not with a rag and a jug of something blue. And here is the part people skip. Scrubbing is not cleaning. Scrubbing is what you do after you have already lost. Here is what you are actually fighting. That ring at the waterline is not dirt. Dirt rinses. That ring is a deposit. Minerals coming out of your water, hardening onto porcelain one layer at a time until you can catch it with a fingernail. The film under the rim is different, but it builds the same way. Nobody scrubs a deposit off in week 1 because in week 1 there is nothing there. You scrub in month 8 when it has gone hard and the color of weak coffee. By then, you are not cleaning. You are doing demolition on your own toilet. So the whole game is not the scrubbing. The whole game is never letting the deposit set up in the first place. A bowl where nothing hardens has nothing to scrub. That is the entire thing, and it is not really a secret. It is just old. Now, before somebody writes me about the arithmetic on that title, I have got about 30 years of my own in residential plumbing. This routine is older than I am. I got it from my Uncle Ray, who was running it in customers' houses before I was tall enough to hold his flashlight. Put his years next to mine, and you land north of 45. That is the line I am counting. Today, I am giving you the whole thing. 7 steps in the order I run them, with real amounts and real timing. I will tell you what each one does and what it will not do, because half of what gets sold for a toilet bowl does nothing. One thing before we start, this is a bowl and tank video. If your toilet is running, rocking, or backing up, those are different problems with different fixes. And if it is a main line, a gas line, or anything needing a permit, that belongs to a licensed pro. Keep one thing in the back of your mind while we go. Every treatment you ever poured in got watered down the moment it hit the bowl, because a gallon of water is already standing there. So the porcelain right at the waterline has never had full strength anything. And that is exactly where your ring is. There is a 30-second move that fixes it. Before we start counting these down, you ought to know where this comes from, because I did not invent it. It is old residential trade practice, the kind that got handed across a truck seat and then vanished when the man holding it retired. The drain side is collected in a digital book called 101 Ways to Unclog Any Drain. 101 fixes covering every drain you own: kitchen and disposal, bathroom, tub and shower, toilet, laundry and floor drains, and the main line, all on plain stuff from your cabinet. It earns its keep here too, because the deposits that stain a bowl also narrow a trap. If you want it, open your phone camera and hold it steady on the square code on screen. A banner slides up top, so tap that. If nothing shows, there is a link below this video. Go at whatever speed suits you. I am not going anywhere. All right, let us get into it. Step 1. Once a month, 1 cup of citric acid powder in the bowl at night, and then you walk away and go to bed. Citric acid is just the sour stuff in a lemon, sold dry as a white powder. Canning aisle where the pickling supplies live, or the cleaning aisle at the hardware store. A pound runs a few dollars and lasts most of a year at this rate. The method is about as simple as it gets. Last one in the bathroom for the night, dump the cup straight in, give it a swirl with the brush so it dissolves, and leave it. Nobody flushes until morning. That is 7 or 8 hours of contact time, and contact time is the whole thing with acid. Flush it in the morning. What is happening in there is straightforward. Hard water carries dissolved minerals, mostly calcium and magnesium. And every hour that water sits still, a little comes out and grabs onto the porcelain. Acid puts it back into solution, and it flushes away as water. Here is why the monthly part matters more than the cup part. Every month, you are dissolving 1 month of deposit, and that is nothing. It comes off while you sleep. Once a year, you are asking that same cup to dissolve a year of hardened layers in 1 night. It will not get there, and then you blame the powder. If you are on hard water, hold that cadence and think about every 3 weeks. You already know if you are. White crust on the aerators, spots on the glasses, film on the shower door. That is your water, telling you what it does inside the toilet. One safety note right here where it belongs. 1 product at a time in that bowl. No citric acid on top of bleach or on top of whatever blue cleaner is in there. Flush it clean first. Mixing household cleaners is how folks end up with a lungful of something they did not plan on. Between you and me, this one step is most of the video. I have walked into houses where the homeowner was already shopping for a new toilet because the bowl looked ruined. It was not ruined. It was 8 years of minerals nobody ever dissolved. Step 2. Once a week, 30 seconds with a soft brush while a treatment is already sitting in the water. Now hold on, you are going to say. That is scrubbing, and you just told us you never scrub. It is not, and the difference is the whole reason this works. Scrubbing is force. Scrubbing is you, with your shoulder into a brush, trying to take off something that already hardened onto the glaze. What I am describing is a soft nylon brush moving water around the bowl for 30 seconds with no pressure. I am not removing a deposit. I am keeping one from settling. Best time is while something is already working. If you are on the monthly soak, do your weekly pass right after you pour, all the way around, up under the rim where you cannot see, and that back curve behind the trap where the water barely moves. When you are finished, do not stand that wet brush in a closed cup on the floor. That cup turns into a little swamp, and then you are painting your clean bowl with it every week. Lay it across the seat and let it drip dry. And here is the part people skip. Never a wire brush, never a scouring pad, never steel wool. Porcelain has a glass glaze, and that glaze is the only thing keeping stains from soaking in. Scratch it, and you have a bowl that stains faster every year after. I have seen more toilets ruined by hard cleaning than by hard water. Step 3. Every few weeks, a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide poured down the overflow tube. This is the step almost nobody knows, and it is the one that keeps a bowl right. Take the lid off the tank. Set it flat on a towel on the floor, not leaned against the wall, because those lids crack and they are not easy to match. Look inside. You will see a vertical open pipe standing up, usually plastic, about as big around as your thumb. That is the overflow tube, and its job is carrying water into the bowl if your fill valve quits. Here is the useful part. Everything you pour down that tube travels the rim channel and comes out the rim jets, those little holes around the underside of the rim. It treats a path nothing in the bowl will ever reach. And that path is where the trouble starts. The underside of your rim stays damp, never sees light, never gets touched. A film gets established up there, and once it is there, it seeds the bowl below it continuously. You can keep the bowl spotless and still lose because you are cleaning downstream of the source. So, about a cup of ordinary 3% peroxide, the brown bottle from the drugstore, $1 or so. Pour it slowly down that tube so it soaks the channel instead of running straight through. Let it sit 20 minutes, then flush. Spend $2 on one of those little inspection mirrors on a handle. Hold it under the rim with a flashlight, and look. Whatever is up in there has been feeding your ring all along. Peroxide goes in by itself, not with bleach, not into a bowl with acid or vinegar sitting in it, and not on the same night as your citric acid. Different night, clean bowl, one thing at a time. Now the footnote I owe you. If you are fighting a pink or orange ring at the water line, that is a different animal, and stop treating it like a stain. Minerals come out white, gray, or rust brown. They do not come out pink. Pink is a bacteria that lives in the air, drifts around damp rooms, and settles anywhere it stays wet. That is why it is back 4 days after you scrub. The peroxide habit answers it, and the other half is your bathroom fan. Run it every shower and 20 minutes after. Step 4. Nothing goes in the tank. No pucks, no tablets, no blue water. Nothing. I know those things are sitting right there at the store, and I know the water looks nice. Here is what they are doing while you are not watching. That tank is full of rubber and soft plastic. The flapper is rubber. The fill valve has rubber in it. The tank-to-bowl gasket is a big rubber donut. A chlorine puck sits in that water 24 hours a day, chewing on every one of them. I have pulled flappers out of tanks with a puck in them and had the rubber come apart like a dry cracker. Now, a flapper is a $5 part and 20 minutes, so on its own, that is no tragedy. But a flapper that lets go at 3 in the morning while you are away for the weekend is a different number. And that tank-to-bowl gasket means draining the tank, unbolting it, and lifting it off the bowl. While you are at it, look at your toilet's paperwork if you still have it. A lot of manufacturers say plainly that in-tank cleaners are not covered under the warranty. Check yours. And the blue water hides the one thing you want to see. You cannot read the condition of your own bowl through a dye. Keep that tank water plain. The cleaning belongs in the bowl and under the rim, where you control the dose and the contact time. Step 5. For the rare, stubborn spot, a borax soak overnight. Borax is a mineral powder, laundry aisle, cheap, on American shelves over 100 years. It is alkaline, the opposite end from your citric acid, so it goes after a different kind of mess. It is also mildly gritty in a paste, and mildly is the important word. 2 ways to use it. Easy way, half a cup in the bowl at night, same as the acid, flush in the morning. Better way for one specific mark, mix a couple spoonfuls with just enough water to make a paste, put it right on the spot and leave it overnight so it stays in contact. 9 times out of 10, you will not need this. It is for the mark that survived a full citric acid soak. And if it survived the acid, it probably was not a mineral to begin with. Keep the box out of reach of children and pets, and wash your hands after. And do not run borax the same night as the acid. Alkaline and acid cancel each other out. You would get nothing and waste both. Step 6. The water level trick, and this is the one I promised you at the top. Everything below the water line sits in about a gallon of standing water, so every treatment you ever poured got diluted the second it landed. A cup of acid in a gallon is weak, and the porcelain right at the line, the exact spot where rings form, has never had full strength anything. That is not a product problem. That is physics. Reach behind the toilet down near the floor and find the little shutoff valve on the supply line. Turn it clockwise until it stops. Now flush once. The bowl empties, and the tank does not refill because you just shut off its water. You are looking at bare porcelain from the trap on up, including that whole untreated stripe. Now go to work. Citric acid right on the wet porcelain, or a borax paste on the mark. Full strength, direct contact, nothing watering it down. Let it sit as long as you have got, an hour, all afternoon, overnight if the household can spare that bathroom. Then open the valve, let the tank fill, and flush it away. A little water stays down in the trap, and that is fine. It is below anything you can see, and it is what keeps sewer gas out of your house. That one move is the whole difference between a treatment that works on your bowl and a treatment that works on your bowl water. One caution, and I want you to hear it. An old shut-off valve that has not been turned since the house was built can be stubborn, and some will weep once you move them. Be gentle, turn slowly, and have a towel and a small bucket down there first. If it drips and will not stop, that valve was already failing, and you found out on a calm Tuesday instead of during an emergency. Stay with me, because I have a habit at the end that prevents that. Step 7. The wet pumice stone, and I want to be careful how I say this one. Pumice is volcanic rock, light and full of little holes, and here is why the old-timers used it. It is softer than porcelain glaze. Used correctly, it takes a hardened mineral ring off without touching the glaze underneath. That part is true, and it is why the trick lasted. But correctly is carrying a lot of weight there. The stone has to be soaking wet all the way through, not just damp, and the porcelain has to be wet too. A dry stone on dry porcelain will scratch. And you know from step 2 what that means. Light pressure only. That gray paste forming is the stone wearing away, not your toilet. But here is my honest position. If you are reaching for a pumice stone, this routine already failed somewhere upstream. In a bowl that gets its monthly soak, step 7 is close to theoretical. I keep one in the truck for houses where somebody let it go a decade. I have not needed one at home in years. Let us talk about the money for a minute, because that is what decides whether you actually do any of this. Your side of the ledger. Citric acid, a few dollars a pound, 1 cup a month, so pennies per treatment. Borax, 1 box lasts years. Peroxide, about $1 a bottle every few weeks. Call the whole system $10 or $15 a year. Now the other side. Those specialty bowl cleaners run around $5 to $8 a bottle last I looked, and plenty of houses go through 1 a month without thinking. That is $100 a year to keep doing the scrubbing you were already doing. When a bowl finally looks ruined, folks call for a professional deep clean, and I hear numbers starting around $150. One-time result on a problem that comes right back, because nothing about the deposit cycle changed. Then, the one that really costs. The new toilet conversation. I have stood in bathrooms while a homeowner told me they wanted to replace a perfectly good toilet because they were embarrassed to have guests use it. A toilet plus install is a few $100s at minimum. 9 times out of 10, the old one was never ruined. It was never dissolved. Then add the hours. Add up every Saturday you spent on your knees with a brush over the last 10 years. That is the real bill, and nobody writes it down. One more thing before I let you go, and it has nothing to do with stains. It is the best 5-second habit I can give you, and it costs nothing at all. That shut-off valve behind your toilet, the one from step 6. Every month when you go in there to pour your citric acid, put your hand on it. Turn it all the way closed, then all the way back open. That is the whole tip. Here is why it matters. A valve that never moves seizes up. The packing dries out, the stem corrodes right where it sits, and it welds itself open without telling you. You will not find that out on a quiet afternoon. You will find out the day the bowl is heading for the rim and you are twisting a handle that will not budge. A valve you turn 12 times a year still turns when you need it. 9 times out of 10, That is the difference between a mess and a disaster. So there it is. A clean bowl was never about elbow grease, and it never will be. It is about never letting the deposit set up in the first place. And now, you have got the whole routine to do it with. If you want that same way of thinking pointed at the rest of the house, the digital book is 101 Ways to Unclog Any Drain. 101 methods reaching every drain under your roof, from the disposal down to the line headed out to the street, all built on plain stuff you already own. Point your phone camera at the code on your screen, or scroll down and tap through underneath this video. It downloads right to you. And if this is your kind of thing, subscribe here to The Vintage Pipe Fitter for more old-school plumbing. Know how that keeps real money in your pocket every week. You go turn that valve tonight. I will see you in the next one.